one of the best strategies in marketing is called 80/20. So if you haven't read it, it's a book that's out there. You literally just go search the 80/20 book and it'll come up. And one of the things that we talk about on today's episode with Jaren Barnes is how he's taking the 80/20 principle and implementing it into his marketing and sales function. And then we also talk about one of my favorite things that he really discussed was taking 80/20 and then reading the book 10X. So taking the 80/20 principle and then 10Xing that 80/20 strategy and then moving forward that way. And it really is a good truth when it comes to marketing and sales, and something that I really think is going to, I'm definitely applying it to my business, is taking the things that work. The principle of it is taking the things that work. There's probably a lot of things that you're doing that doesn't work, and there's a very small percentage that is getting all of the results for you, and then multiplying that strategy and 10Xing that, and then that's going to make you unbeatable in whatever it is that you're doing. And that's really a guiding principle in marketing that works so well, and it's a great kind of strategy to build a foundation on in your marketing world. Additionally, Jaren, one of the most interesting things that happens on this episode is Jaren walks us through his process of, he gave an example of he's kind of testing a few different marketing strategies, and him and his wife do land investing, and his wife, they were testing going after a lead, and his wife had a certain way of just trying to get through the lead and just like not segmenting it into a prospect versus a lead versus just interest and that sort of thing. And she offered this seller $25,000 for their land property. And Jaren has this very kind of monotonous process that has a lot of steps to it, where you are connecting with the seller at a lot more of a deeper level, having a lot more conversations with them, not even talking about price, not even talking about an offer until later on in the process. And they offered $20,000. The seller took that offer as opposed to the $25,000 offer. And he specifically said it's because the seller was connecting with them more at a deeper level and wanted to work with them at that point. So they took a 20% price deduction, the seller did, $25,000 less for the property just because they connected with the way Jaren has his process out. And so we kind of talk about the way that, I don't believe in the whole selling ice to an Eskimo type thing, making sure your demographic needs what you have so that there's value in the exchange for the services that you're offering them. And then also making sure that your sales processes are dialed in and you're connecting with sellers as opposed to just treating them as numbers solely, and have conversations with them, get to know them and that sort of thing. And then really mirror their personalities. If they want to have a very long conversation with you, being willing to do that. If they want to have a short and sweet conversation with you and they're kind of trying to control a conversation and that sort of thing, mirror that as well. And so Jaren talks about that, gives a few examples. So you're going to get a lot of value out of this. Jaren's a great guy. There is a call to action towards the end where you can connect with Jaren, and there's a certain number that you text the word marketing and say Josh Culler sent you. Make sure you take advantage of that. It's a really big deal. So listen to this podcast episode first, get some value out of it, and then make sure you stick around for that, because Jaren offers a free 30-minute call with him. And obviously there's a little bit of a pitch, but there's going to be a lot of value that you can get out of that. Get some direction and that sort of thing. So without further ado, I'm excited about this episode. It's a really, really good one. You guys listen up and enjoy. Here's my friend, Jaren Barnes. Welcome back to the REI Marketing Weekly. It's your host, Josh Culler, and I've got a really exciting episode for you today. I've got my good buddy, Jaren Barnes, on the show with Land Mavericks Society. Jaren, how you doing, man? It's good to have you.
I'm honored to be here, sir. I'm very excited.
We have so many things to talk about. There's a couple of things when we were going back and forth about topic to talk about today that really perked my ears up, and I'm like, this would be really valuable for our audience to kind of dig into. So here's the nutshell, guys, and I'll talk about this in the introduction as well, but the nutshell is that Jaren specializes in land investing. Okay, so I know this is a real estate investing podcast. Guys, I hate to break the news to you, but land is real estate as well. So I think it's a good idea to bring guests on the show that don't necessarily just wholesale, or they just market to motivated seller leads to, bring those deals in, and, they're text blasting, their direct mail, and it's all to residential properties, right? I think having an outside perspective on different types of exit strategies, different types of assets is really invaluable. It could kind of open a new world for a lot of people. So today we're going to be talking about a handful of topics, but obviously, given the context that Jaren is in land investing, I want to make sure that everybody understands that. So some of the ways that Jaren presents the marketing that they do is going to be kind of tailored to land, but I do think that, Jaren, a lot of this stuff is very relevant to if you're even just marketing to motivated seller leads that have a house to sell, right? So You specifically started discussing with me that getting the deals are, for lack of a better term, easier than dispoing the deals. And you also mentioned that you are killing it in text blasting in a world where a lot of real estate investors have gone away from text blasting and, using that platform as a way to market because of regulations and stuff like that. You've been able to kind of find a sweet spot in it. So talk to us about that. What is that looking like for you right now?
Yeah, launch control is a land investor / real estate investor's best friend, because there is legitimate compliance concerns. There is some liability where if you're just using the wrong negative keywords, which change every other day, you can be liable. And, there are actually like gurus out there that teach as a side hustle how to like sue people that are not doing ringless voicemail drops and text blasts in a way that's compliant. But launch control as a platform does everything that it can possibly do to make sure that you are doing it right. Literally, when I send out text, I have to sit there and click 600 times in order to send everything out, because I have to do it manually in order to be compliant.
Right.
And they really make sure that you're doing things the right way so you can sleep better at night.
Yeah.
A big key to texting working, it's the same thing with cold calling. You gotta qualify your lead. Like, I don't even consider a lead a lead. I look at it like there's responses, prospects, and then leads. And we only declare a lead if they have, in some form or fashion, agreed to sell to us at a discount. You have to use a lot of finesse. You can't literally say, hey, would you sell your property to me at 50 cents on the dollar? You can't do that. That's the normal standard in land investing. I think in houses it's like 70 cents or something, right? But
yeah. Now, Jaron, I think you're going to go into it, but can you specify why do you separate them into those buckets like that? What's the purpose of doing that?
So you have to, I'm a real 80-20 guy talking marketing. If anybody is out there, I would highly recommend Perry Marshall's 80-20 sales and marketing. If you're watching this by video, I have it. There's a little bokeh effect on the camera, but that's that blurred out.
We could see the silhouette. Now we got a thumbs up emoji.
But yeah, like that book changed my life, because I was actually reading at the time. I was kind of really getting into Grant Cardone, and I think as my just kind of default personality and general makeup as a human being, I'm kind of a workaholic. So I'm somebody who really like my default response to problems is like just work more and just do more. And so I was really into this whole Grant Cardone, like 10X and all this. And then I read his book where he talks about it's more ideal to send out a signal and that have people raise their hand to come and voluntarily come and talk to you, and how not every decision and action you take has the same amount of output. It doesn't carry the same weight. Mm-hmm. There are certain decisions that you can make where it's not even an 80-20, it's a 1% to 99% output. And so it completely reoriented everything I did in my life, let alone my business. And I really started looking for the things that move the needle. And when it comes to texting, here's a fundamental truth that oftentimes as real estate investors forget. Business, a viable business of any sort, is rooted in a value exchange. So for us investors, we often, I've heard gurus get real weird and kind of predatory on how they approach sellers, but fundamentally, there is a value exchange that justifies the price. The like pricing psychology, like ABCs, is that you are providing a value that exceeds the value that's perceived for the dollar amount that you're charging, because otherwise people wouldn't pay for it. They're feeling like they're getting a bigger value from paying that certain dollar amount. Otherwise, it would be too expensive. So when you understand that, we have a value that we're giving to our sellers. And even though it's weird because we're giving money in our circumstances, you can look at the discount that you're buying the property at as the price that they're paying for your service. Why on earth are we wasting time trying to strong arm people or used cars salesmen trying to use, Jedi mind tricks to get them to agree to selling to us when they're not our customer.
Mm-hmm.
Our customer is very clearly identified. Some form or fashion, they are wanting to get cash quick. And especially in land, it's an illiquid asset. It's really hard to move it. Yeah. So within, between 3 to 6 weeks, depending on perk tests and other things on the due diligence side for land, they're hitting an easy button that gets them tens of thousands of dollars, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars that they otherwise wouldn't know if they'd be able to get, even if they hired a realtor. So, I'm not going to waste time running comps. I'm not going to waste time building rapport. And so one, I know the property from a due diligence standpoint is at least viable to some degree, like a quick and dirty check, and that they have verbally told me yes, in some form or fashion, that they're open to selling at a discount. Now, again, you got to use a lot of finesse. The talk track is key because you can't be like, yo, will you give me your property at a discount, bro? It doesn't work out that well.
Yeah, for sure. I was going to say, one of the things that you mentioned is, the whole mantra of, I could sell ice to an Eskimo. That's, to me, that kind of mentality in the sales world, it's sure, does it win? Yeah. But, there's a lot of winners out there that haven't done it correctly in an ethical way. To me, an Eskimo doesn't need ice. They have it all the way around them and they can go get it themselves, and there's just not enough value. But, if somebody's in the Caribbean and needs ice, then sure, because it's a hot climate, they're on the equator or whatever. There's that type of conversation. And I think there's a lot that, not just from an ethical standpoint, but if you're going to spend your time and money in marketing and sales, you need to make sure that the nutshell is making sure that you market your service to the right demographic and to the right person that needs it, or else that service is going to be too expensive because it's the service isn't exceeding the value of the price point, which you said, is ultimately the discount if you're a real estate investor. So I think that's a good kind of pin drop that I want to kind of put there, because I think a lot of people overlook that, and then they'll go start reading sales books about how to be able to sell ice to an Eskimo and that sort of thing. And it's ethically and from a principle marketing, it's not really how it works.
It's
honestly.
not 80-20.
No.
10x, you should identify 80-20 levers in life in general, and then 10x that. That activity.
I like that. That is awesome. Yeah.
Never thought of it. Base in 80-20. Because otherwise you're going to be spinning your wheels and just, there's only certain things that actually move the needle towards anything substantial. It's not a one size fits all. Life is not fair. It's not balanced. It's 80-20 across the board. So if you understand that that's built into the fabric of the universe, even DNA level, Perry Marshall's a real science guy. I'm telling you, if you can identify the few key things that gives you the edge, again, we're talking text, I'll give a little story and then I'll do my best to keep it brief because I know we got this podcast.
We're lost in.
Right? But it's kind of fun. I have a legacy land business that I started in 2016 or 17. And then throughout the years, I shifted more towards coaching as my primary focus. And my wife is running our day-to-day land business. In practical purposes, my wife is the girl boss and she calls the shots now. So when it comes to building out automations and systems and all that stuff, she's until it makes money, I'm not going to do any of it. So, but I'm in a position as a coach, I need to continue to be on the cutting edge so that I always have an edge in what I'm training our members at Land Mavericks Society, right? So 60 days ago, I started a new land business for the sole purpose of having a lab, something I could experiment in and, just be on the front lines. And we are doing we're doing the lowest tier of launch control in terms of it's 10,000 total outbound texts per month. We're 2 months in. I had an acquisition manager that's based in the Philippines. She's still working with us. So I don't know about was, but she is based in the Philippines and she has a, somewhat of a land background, but was completely brand new to the calls. and to the phones. And I doubled down super hard on like, okay, you have to call, triple dial 3 times a day on the qualification call and on the offer call. And you have to optimize for connection and rapport. And I spent a ton of time training. My wife ended up, by accident, marketing the exact, she does texting and smarter contact. We do texting and launch control. And she ended up hitting the same market that we were in, Otero County, New Mexico. It was a double close situation. So it wasn't exactly buy 50 cents on the dollar, but there was some opportunity. There was some spread on it to try to, as kind of a plan B, we default to doing like a double close just for, like having some extra activity in the pipe and what have you. So once we found out that my wife and Zoe were working the same lead, it was actually my wife's VA, Beth, and then my VA, Zoe. And, we tried to just give it to my wife because I don't want World War III breaking out in my house. So I was like, hey, all right, we're going to set you up where we're going to come in lower and you come in higher so that you can get the lead. So they led with 25,000 and we led with 20,000. But because I had so strongly emphasized qualification, the seller ended up verbally agreeing to sell to us at 20 and at a discount, lower than what my wife was offering.
Wow.
Because of connection. So you will get deals because you built connection and because you build rapport and you qualify correctly. Like that's the kind of stuff that moves the needle. Like my wife compensates by volume. She's doing like 8 to 12 deals a month and we're at like something like 60 properties in inventory right now. Like we're doing a lot on the texting front and it's a well-oiled machine, but she's very inefficient. And just by bringing in more efficiency, I still have a lot of fine tuning to do. But she's probably going to be able to do the same amount of volume she's doing now at half the total outbound text. But she's sending about 100,000 a month. It's a little different with smarter contact because it's total, but let's call it 80,000 initial outbound messages. And, she's doing that volume, but she could do it probably in half.
Interrupting this podcast episode to tell you guys that this podcast is managed and produced by Color Media Productions. Yes, shameless plug, that's my company. However, we do this for a lot of other people as well. Most people that we work with are in the real estate investing space. So if you're listening to this podcast specifically, you probably are a real estate investor, given it's called the REI Marketing Weekly. If you're somebody that either wants to start a podcast or you have one going and it's becoming a little bit of a hassle, you're looking to transition to somebody that works a little bit better with a fluid motion in terms of you get the recordings done and then they do everything else. Well, that's what we do. We do fully managed podcasts from start to finish, video, audio, show noting, the graphics, publishing, everything that goes into it. It's a full service business that we run here in a service for you as a real estate investor if you are running a podcast. Additionally, we also do social media and YouTube management as well. So all of that being on the organic side, if you are interested in learning more about working with us and just recording content with guidance and strategy set by myself personally, and then not doing anything else after that, where we're taking care of everything from start to finish, then make sure you go check us out at colormedia.com, CULLER media.com. Hit us up there and we can learn more about working together, hop on a phone call and see what we could do for you. Now back to the episode.
Yeah. So what it sounds like is I want to kind of dig deep into this portion here because I think it's important for people to understand contextually. So the way that you're doing it is a lot more, it sounds like it's a lot more intentional and there's definitely more steps to it than say the way that your wife has done it. And her process and what you guys are kind of testing in the lab and that sort of thing. Do you think that those extra steps, first of all, there's kind of a 2-part question. First of all, does it cause any roadblocks? So do you ever see any kind of drop off because there's too many steps per se? And obviously this might be something that you're kind of workshopping, but the second part of it would be, if not, do you think those extra steps are what close the deal? Because it sounds like for that specific example you gave, because of the extra touches, a $5,000 difference, that's a 20% difference between like 20,000 and 25,000. Like that's a big difference. And if you multiply that number, if it's like a house, like if somebody's a wholesaler and it's, $100K versus whatever, extra 20% on that is, there's some big differences there. So to me, it sounds like those extra steps did win the battle at that point. Have you ever seen any kind of like drop off with that? Or do you think it is the advantage creator?
So you have to experiment. I had the privilege of like getting to know Perry Marshall a little bit more on the personal side. I actually didn't know who he was, and I randomly met him at church, and like I like started doing some projects with him, temporarily, and we kind of stay in touch and stuff. And one of the things that I found very odd, like just very striking, very counterintuitive, is that he said that to do an 80-20 analysis or like brainstorming session, it's actually massively wasteful on the front end. Like he takes his entire Monday and has no meetings, and he just has the whiteboard day. Like he comes up fresh off every weekend and just leverages being fresh for his highest level thinking. But he'll go through 95% waste to get to 5% of cutting edge marketing strategies that move the needle. He does like masterminds and like the whole nine. He's in stuff with like Dan Kennedy and all the greats and whatever. And his strategy, his key to getting an edge on everybody else is allowing himself the space to be wasteful to get to the gold. Because you are experimenting, and you do have to you have to find the things, and so there's risk involved, right?
Yeah.
It's probably best if somebody's just starting out, just take somebody else's model, copy paste, do exactly what they say. Don't do anything fancy. Do not make it Frankenstein and like combine, competing ideologies. Like just do what.
Don't recreate the wheel if you're new.
Yeah. But once you've gotten a certain amount of deal flow, you're in a spot where you can justify the extra cost and waste on the front end to optimize for the future. So it's kind of like an investment, right? So for what we did, I have a lot of people that are peers of mine and kind of the thought leader space in Land or whatever that say, treat every lead like a lead, because you never know in the future they might convert and you're the first person that comes to mind if you built their connection. All that's great and gravy. You can handle all that stuff with automatic follow-up, and you're spending your manual time, energy, and attention on people that will actually move the needle. And so like there's even with texting, there's a lot of people who will swear up and down that you need to text out offers or you need to do qualification over text because it's a massive onslaught of activity. And so you have to like really filter very quickly. And our team, we're literally 80-90% of our business is run by 2 Filipino-based VAs that are crushing it. And I got to give it shout out to my team. Like they're incredible people, and we pay them well, and they're good. But that's kind of it's kind of weird to be able to like run a Land business while I'm running the coaching business, and I'm doing training. I'm meeting with them daily and stuff. But I might be spending an hour to 2 hours in the Land business, like my own Land business, as opposed to somebody else, right? And it's working because we really fleshed out the right way to go about it and optimize for things. At least in Land, houses might be a little different, but in Land, people who own land are more Southern or more country generally in their culture. So they're more kind of close-chested.
They want that connection. They don't just want the transaction.
They would rather meet you in person if they could have it. And so at the very least, and sure, volume, like you could just shotgun blast. My wife does it. My wife will queue up. She'll wake up sometimes at 4:00 in the morning and she'll just queue up all of her offers, and then she'll just blast it out and then have her acquisition manager like follow up and try to make calls after the fact. But we don't even run comps. And so we have said, hey, so I want to get a chance to talk to you and get to know each other a little bit. I want you to know that I'm an investment company. And the way our business model works, we're not the right fit for everybody, but for the right person, we're probably going to be the easiest real estate transaction you ever do. And we want to make this a true win-win for you. We want to give you as much money as we possibly can while still having it work for us for our investment purposes. So understanding that, I'm not in a position where I can give you the highest price out there for your property, but I am all cash and we close quick, cover all the closing costs. The number we agree on is what you're going to walk away with at the closing table. Understanding that, are you open to entertaining an offer from us? like, and if they say, wow, my property is premium and blah, 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 then we know they're not, then I'm over and say, hey, we're probably not a good fit because I'm not going to be anywhere close to, the top of market for you. And I say that, in a very nice, honoring, way. I say it with finesse and I emphasize the benefits over the negatives. That's really important. You got to one negative, you got to have 5 positives, that's a big marketing truth there. But, on the other side of that, they normally say, well, I'm not going to give the property away, but yeah, for the right price, if, I'd work with you and see if we can make something happen. And then they're a lead. Then we run comps, then we negotiate, then we build rapport, then we follow up. But until then, they're not a lead. They're a prospect.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if they're my customer.
That's huge. I think, so the way you explain that process, first of all, thank you for doing that because that was exactly what I was looking for. I think that method, it sounds like I've had people on the show and I've even talked to people that, I'm friends with that are in the real estate space specifically. And even just wholesaling leads, people that do it that way tend to see the best results, especially in today's market where there's not a vast amount of inventory. Like if we wound the clock back 5-6 years ago or whatever, then we might be having a completely different conversation about this because it's going to be all volume. It's going to be all base because there's an immense amount of inventory out there. But in a world where we don't have that luxury, you have to really take the time to build relationships and build that rapport. Like in the sales, world, we call it rapport with the sellers, whether it's a land, whether it's a residential property owner, or maybe somebody has a multifamily, they have an apartment building that they're looking to sell and you're talking with them. A lot of times price doesn't matter. And we have endless stories of that, that where there was the case study where somebody locked up a deal at 10 grand less than what the other competing offers were just because they had a better relationship with the seller. And that right there is literally encapsulates what sales should be in this process. And typically people that have the best customers, they're not going to give you a hassle throughout the process. They're also going to sing your praises. They're going to give you great reviews and stuff like that. And they will send everybody your way as a referral base, which I know a lot of people have built really good referral based businesses. And that's the way to do it. So, that's huge.
I teach people in land in particular. I know houses are a little more nuanced and whatever, but most salespeople optimize for the close. So they're trying to close.
Yeah.
That's the goal. Let's get a deal.
Yeah.
We don't even, that's not even on the radar.
Right.
The goal is, how do I make this person have the best experience humanly possible within 30 seconds of meeting them so that they walk away being like, wow, that was an awesome experience. I really like that person.
Yeah.
Because even if they're not willing to sell today, I have had so many people in the years we've been doing land stuff where, I didn't have good follow-up. I didn't have good systems in place. I ran my land business on a Google spreadsheet for the first 3.5 years. But I would call, make a great connection, and then I wouldn't follow up with them. And I've had people call 3 months, 6 months, a year later, being like, hey, I'm ready to sell now. And you were the only one that I wanted to sell to because you were the real deal. You're just a human being. Authenticity in that connection. And you got to be really subtle. This kind of bleeds into marketing, but because you got to figure out your avatar. But it's really important as an acquisition manager or as an investor in general, talking to seller prospects, you got to identify who you're talking to very, very quickly, and then figure out in real time what experience will this person value. Because if I'm talking to a grandma in the hills of Tennessee, that could be a 30-minute conversation talking about the grandkids, talking about their fond memories and their deceased husband. And
built for Thanksgiving.
But if I'm talking to a retired stockbroker out in New York, that might be a 3-minute conversation. Because what he's going to respect, he's going to come in and be alpha male and try to intimidate me and be crash tax, blah, blah, blah. But then what he's wanting, he's trying to size me up. So it took me a really long time to figure this stuff out, a lot of trial and error. But like you respond to that guy with the same kind of macho energy. And like, hey, bro, you don't have to sell to me. I mean, hey, I don't know if I even want your property. You know, like, I mean, you have to make sure that's an extreme example, but you got to make sure it works in the context of the conversation. But you got to figure that out and become very, very good at that piece, because the goal is to create the experience that they want to have on the phone. You know, it's like, I'm telling you, man, even, people, regardless of where you stand on the political line of things, if somebody is anti-Trump, I make a neutral Trump joke that everybody would laugh at. If somebody is pro-Trump, make a funny neutral Trump joke that everybody can right? I become all things to all men within the spectrum of authenticity and your true self. Sure, it is helpful to have a very diverse, eclectic background, because of course. I have a really crazy, I could literally connect with people from the South because I spent half my life there. But in the South, my dad was married to a Puerto Rican woman, so I grew up in a Spanish-speaking household. He also spent half my life in California, married to a Russian speaker. It's just...
I cover, man.
Yeah, a lot of points I could talk about.
That's the advantage right there. Diversity.
But but even with that, have experiences and become a well-rounded person. And be curious about the person you're talking to. So many people just I gotta just get through my call quantity and hit 200 calls in the day or whatever it is. And that's not 80-20. You could be the one person, and I mean, within reason, qualify them and stuff. But if there's an opportunity for you to connect, they're gonna walk away loving you over your competition, man. It's just the truth.
Yeah. That's amazing. Dude, drop some major truth bombs there the last few minutes. There's a lot to really unpack, and I definitely want to have you back to go through some more things that are kind of in this world. I think some of the biggest takeaways that I would look at is, number one is obviously figure out your 80-20. And something that you said that I'm like, man, this would be a really perfect kind of 1-2 punch of read this book, then this book, and then that's your strategy. Is you said read 80-20 and then read 10x. So it's 10xing your 80-20. I think that is an amazing strategy. I've never even thought of that. I don't know if you came up with that or somebody else did, but we'll give you credit. And I think that's huge. And obviously you apply that directly to marketing and sales, but you apply that to every other part of your business and your life. And it's going to be really hard to beat you at any level, because you're maximizing the things that you're amazing at and that really get the best results. And that's one of the biggest takeaways that I'll point out here. So, Jaren, man, appreciate the 30 minutes that you spent here. If somebody wanted to connect with you, learn more about you, I know you have some things to offer, and we're getting the podcast launched again. So that'll be, by the time this episode goes out, we should have that ready to go, the Land Mavericks podcast. And then I know you have a community that you're building. So can you talk about that a little bit and ways people can connect with you?
Yeah, man. I teach people how to get started and scale Land, and we fund our member deals. And I'm very different. I don't know what word to use that, because I say coach because it's probably the closest thing that people would make sense, but I'm kind of more like a fractional partner of your business. I routinely call seller leads with my members. I routinely run due diligence and comps. I routinely where we're on a 3-way conversation with the seller. Yeah. And I give out my cell phone number to our members and all that stuff. But probably the best thing that we could do if we want to connect, text the word marketing to 219-419-7797. Again, the word is marketing, 219-419-7797. And I'll know that you came from this podcast, and I'll give you a free 30-minute coaching call. And even of course, there's going to be a little bit of a pitch of hey, if you want to work together, this is how we can. But it's kind of a show and tell. So even if you don't have the money to work with me or whatever, happy to jump on a call with you and kind of walk through high level strategies of how you can get started in Land and take things to the next level. If you are a house wholesaler or a struggling wannabe house wholesaler, there's a ton of overlap between the two business models, and it's just a lot of a quieter sandbox and a lot more inventory. So if you're struggling on the house wholesaling, we're doing 8 to 12 deals a month in my legacy land business, and not including VAs and staff, but just in terms of like list and texting, like script tracing and all that. Oh, on a bad month, we're at $5,000 marketing. Whereas like in, I know guys in the house wholesaling world that are spending $70,000 to $90,000
Yep.
a month. So like
Well,
it's just a totally different, very similar skill set, but very, very different. It's a blue ocean.
Yeah, I would say so, definitely. Well, Jaren, thank you for doing that. If you guys, definitely take advantage of that. First of all, Jaren, a friend of mine, and he's going to give you a lot of value on that call, even though there's going to be a little bit of a pitch at the end, and he's going to try to get you into the program, which is definitely something that you guys should consider. But even on that call, he's going to be able to get you pointed in the right direction, make the decision if this is something that it's going to work for you or not. It's going to accomplish your goals or not. So take advantage of it. You're going to get something out of it. So we'll have...
Don't hard sell anybody on the coaching side. Like, it's I'm not going to... It's just, it needs to be the right fit and be a win-win. And, but I've had people literally come to me and be like, just do a psychology session. Yeah, man. So yeah, I look forward to meeting you guys and having that chit chat.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll leave that number down below for you guys in the description. So in case you can't type it out, just go check down the description below and you'll see that. And then text the word marketing and say Josh Culler sent you. And then you guys will be able to connect with them. Jaren, thanks so much for being on, man. Look forward to having you back again soon. And I think that's going to do it for today's episode.
Yeah, man. I'm looking forward to the next one as well. It's been an honor, sir. Appreciate you.
Awesome. Guys, that's going to do it for today's episode. Thank you so much for joining and listening. If you haven't already, make sure you have subscribed to the show. Share this with your friends. And if you haven't already, make sure you have checked out my social media and YouTube content. There's a lot of great stuff going out there teaching you guys about creating content, social media, podcasting, marketing, and that sort of thing. So we'll have all that linked down in the description below. You can find me. Just go look for Josh Culler on any of those platforms and I'll pop up. So that's going to do it for today's episode. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll catch you in the next one. See ya.